Hi everyone, I'm just jumping on for a quick transfer update because there's some pretty interesting news breaking around Liverpool today, and that concerns Andy Robertson, who I understand is a target for Atletico Madrid this summer. I'd have to say that's maybe not a transfer story that anybody expected coming into this transfer window, but that is definitely the case, and I wanted to jump on really and tell you what I know about this story. And I think the best place to start really is with the player himself, and I have to say, sources on his side of things are not necessarily dismissing this move out of hand, not saying that he will definitely stay at Liverpool, so I do get the sense that he is at least open to this move to Atletico Madrid. I mean, you could probably guess as much actually from his interview on the final day of the Premier League season. He was kind of cryptic and a little bit coy in that, in suggesting that, he had to have a think about what happens with his future, and it's something to kind of sit down with his family and talk about, which, for someone who was definitely going to stay, you maybe wouldn't choose the words that he did in that interview. And I think that's not a huge surprise, because he knows going into next season he wouldn't play as much as he did last season, because obviously Liverpool are looking to strengthen at left back, and when an opportunity like this comes up as well, it does give you a decision to make. You're not going to play as much at Liverpool, you've got an offer there from Atletico Madrid, or at least some strong interest as it is at the moment, and Madrid's a fantastic city, much better climate I have to say than the northwest of England, and obviously a huge club with a very, very good manager in Diego Simeone, and a club that regularly challenges for silverware in Spain as well. So there's lots to like from his perspective, isn't there, about the idea of a move to Atletico Madrid, particularly if they'd be guaranteeing him more regular football. I mean, we saw Kieran Trippier make a similar move out there, didn't we, to Atletico Madrid? He enjoyed his time there and also won the title with Atleti as well. So, if Robertson's looking at that one and you compare it to maybe staying at Liverpool and essentially maybe being a backup, it will look pretty appealing, I would say. And so no real surprise that his side of things are exploring things at the minute. Of course, for him to make that move, there's got to be a deal made with Liverpool, and from their perspective, there's been no approach yet from Atletico Madrid, so it's very much a kind of wait and see as far as Liverpool sources are concerned. And they don't really have a decision to make around price tag or anything like that just yet until they get that approach. Of course, Robertson does have just 1 year of his contract remaining at the moment, and as I understand it, there's not been any talks yet around a renewal of that contract. So of course they've got the decision there to make in terms of, do we cash in now? Do we try and make some money off the back of him rather than just letting him leave on a free, or do we hand out that extension, keep him as an experienced backup option? That's the decision Liverpool have got to make. And I would say that decision's a little bit complicated by the fact that Kostas Tsimikas is there as well. He seemed like a much more straightforward sale for Liverpool, and a much more straightforward way really to bring some cash in if they were to strengthen at left back, which of course is the plan. So can they sell 2 left backs in one summer? It would of course mean that they would have to then buy another on top of the one that they were already going to buy. So I think that makes things difficult for Liverpool in terms of decision making. And just one, and I must say and stress really, this is just speculation on my part rather than anything that I necessarily understand to be the case that's going to be moving forward, but I do want to talk about this, is that I do know that there was interest there in Jarell Quansah at Ajax, and obviously he is capable of playing left back, so that interest existed there. And I just wonder, and just have a sneak, if they were to sell 2 left backs, if Robertson were to go and Tsimikas were to go, would Hato come back onto the market as far as Liverpool were concerned as a potential option at left back, but also at centre half, someone who can cover those 2 positions and be a backup as a left back, but also be a backup as a centre half, and maybe get games in both positions that would allow him to develop? That's just one to keep an eye on, I would say. And as I say, I can vouch for the fact that there was interest in Hato, so maybe that's something we see reignited going forward if it ends up in a situation where Liverpool sell 2 left backs. But as I say, we're a little bit far away from that yet. Nothing concrete yet with Robertson, nothing concrete certainly with Tsimikas yet, and the messages from Tsimikas' side of things, it was a little bit early at the moment to say what's going to happen, so we'll just have to see how that develops. Now, of course, talking about the left backs, didn't want to mention his name until we came to this section of the video, but I just want to quickly talk about Milos Kerkez. Now, he is on holiday at the moment. I'm sure everybody who's looked at his social media will see that. But I do get the feeling and the sense from speaking to Liverpool people that this is not a million miles away now. I think we could see very, very quick movement potentially when the player comes back from his holidays in terms of that move, because as I say, I've had the suggestion that it's not a million miles away, and I think there's not any doubts, of course, that Liverpool really like the player, and of course that the player desperately wants to join Liverpool as well. So all the ingredients are there really for that one to get wrapped up fairly early or fairly soon, I would say. And then of course I think Liverpool's attentions will turn to, after Wirtz, after Frimpong, after Kerkez has signed, then a few sales, and then the further business that they have to do in the window, which of course Robertson could be amongst those sales, Tsimikas could be amongst those sales, so could be even more work to do at fullback. But of course there are other areas of the pitch to think about as well. And in fact, on that message, I do want to just quickly touch on Jarell Quansah. Obviously there is interest in him from Bayer Leverkusen, that's an option there, and I think people would maybe be surprised actually with Quansah, just how open the player is himself to maybe moving on from Liverpool. Of course, it's a big club and somewhere you want to be at, and it's been a great place for him to be so far in his career, but there is a keenness there to maybe go and play a bit more football, so that is very much one I would say to keep an eye on. Now, Liverpool definitely not pushing him out the door by any means, but I think a bid of around kind of 45-50 million would definitely bring them to the table, and if because the player wants to go maybe, or not necessarily wants to go and he's banging the door down to leave, but he's very much open to the idea of moving. And I think, you know, with a World Cup coming up, you can see why that would be. Playing regular football, putting himself in the window in terms of with the England manager to get him in that squad is a bit of a priority. And would he get that at Liverpool? I very much doubt as much. So that is, you know, his thinking on that one, and that's Liverpool's thinking. So that's where we are with that one. And just a quick one actually on that. Sources on the German side of things are saying that Bayer Leverkusen are maybe finding that price a little bit high for them at the moment. Could they drag Liverpool to the 35 million mark, somewhere closer to that? Maybe they would see that as more reasonable. But we know Liverpool will dig the heels in on valuations. They won't be giving players away. So again, that requires movement from Bayer Leverkusen. It maybe requires a Premier League club who are a bit more flush with cash to come in as an alternative as well. So we will just keep an eye on Jarell Quansah and Bayer Leverkusen, but that is an active situation that can move quickly, and one to bear in mind. And just one to wrap up, not necessarily about transfers, although I guess it kind of is. You may have seen the reports about Michael Edwards and big interest in him, a role at Al Hilal in the Saudi Pro League. Now, the noises are at the moment that there's nothing really concrete in that. There are relations there. There are talks maybe between Michael Edwards and Al Hilal, specifically maybe regarding Darwin Núñez, who they are interested in, but it's not really progressed, that one. But nothing in terms of any concerns on the Liverpool side. As things stand, that could advance, of course, but as things stand, no real worry that he kind of wants to move on yet. Of course, Liverpool's plan is, with his role as the head of football at FSG, that he will eventually oversee another club and another acquisition of a club to kind of join this multi-club model that Liverpool and FSG want to run. So the idea is for Edwards to head that up, and apparently, and we're hearing from the Liverpool side, no major concerns that he wants to leave that job yet and move on to the Saudi Pro League. But again, we'll see if anything changes with that, but that's how things stand at the moment. So I'm going to wrap it up there anyway. Do let me know what your thoughts on all the latest developments on Robertson, Tsimikas, Quansah, Kerkez, Michael Edwards as well. That'd be a blow if he did leave, wouldn't it? But do let me know your thoughts on those, and if you can like and subscribe, it's much appreciated. And of course, I just want to quickly tell you, I'm actually going away on holiday next week, so videos might be few and far between, unfortunately. I may even miss the signing of Kerkez. We don't know if that moves quickly enough, but if you want to learn a little bit more about him while I'm away, do watch my video and that deep dive into his qualities, because I do like to think that is quite insightful and gives you an idea of the player. But if I don't see you before then I'll see you after my holiday, and I'll see you guys very soon.